Welcome back to the RBR Recap, Episode 8. I am Alex Burgos, joined as always by my co-host, Gabe Rivas. Special edition of the RBR Recap. We're recording on Saturday night, early afternoon fight for us folks here in the States. Leigh Wood and Michael Conlan. But before we jump into that, I want to know, Gabe, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks to our friends in the UK because of that fight. I think it ended around 4 p.m. Pacific time in Los Angeles, which means I can enjoy the rest of my Saturday and sleep in on Sunday morning. So good stuff.
Definitely. We got a little bit of snow here in Maryland, so I'm definitely indoors, but I'm always happy when we get an early UK fight. And man, we got a treat today, so we'll jump right into it. WBA regular featherweight champion Leigh Wood produced a shocking comeback victory against Michael Conlan in devastating knockout fashion. He finished off Conlan in round 12 via TKO, and it came at the 125 mark of the last round. This fight is undoubtedly going to be in contention for fight of the year, knockout of the year. And, you know, if comeback of the year was a category or a popular category, that would be in there as well. Shocking stuff. When you look at the scores going into round 12, every judge had Michael Conlan up, albeit not by many points, but he still was up. And so we had one judge giving it to him 104, 103, another one 105, 102, and the last one 104, 103. So even if he would have survived that knockdown and gotten back up, it may have been a situation where we got another photo of him, you know, flicking off the judges or whatnot. But it didn't end up happening because Wood finished him off. It was just a devastating knockout. It's 9:30 Eastern time right now. All communication seems to be that Michael Conlan arrived at the hospital conscious. There haven't been many highlights or anything like that by Matchroom and DAZN because they're making sure, even Leigh Wood said after the fight, that he's okay before they really start to celebrate. So we just want to preface with that. But Gabe, I want to get your opinion on this fight, not only the stoppage, but just the ebb and flow of the fight, how it started with Michael Conlan scoring a devastating knockdown in round one of Leigh Wood that, you know, a lot of people thought he may not even get up from. And then we ended up getting what we got. But what were your thoughts on that?
Like you mentioned, we want to preface this by saying that we want to make sure 100% that Conlan is okay. And I think everyone in the boxing community feels that way before we can celebrate or make any plans. But putting that aside, it was a courageous and spirited performance by Leigh Wood. As you mentioned, Conlan came out and by the end of the first round landed an overhand left that dropped Wood. And it looked like he was going to have a lot of trouble during those first three rounds. In the second round, it looked like Conlan was going to go for the stoppage, but Wood was able to recover from that. However, he wasn't able to avoid that overhand left. It was a problem for the entire fight. He couldn't see it coming. And perhaps if he had, if Conlan had a little bit more power, if he had been more consistent with that overhand left, maybe he would have finished him. But maybe that's just a testament to Wood and his tenacity and his determination that he was able to withstand so many overhand left and continue going. But right now we're seeing that Wood is a major player at 126 pounds. He is a major player in terms of belt holders in that division, because as we all know, it's one thing to be a belt holder and it's another thing to be a top dog in the division. He's showing that he's indeed both of them. Despite two losses early in his career that took place before his recent streak of victories, he scored a victory against Chu Kan to win the WBA championship. He had to overcome a height and reach advantage to stop him in the 12th round. And now he beat a two-time Olympian. Conlan, of course, winning bronze medal at 2012, but losing in controversial fashion, an ability to win a medal in 2016. But nonetheless, undefeated, came in here with a lot of desire to win. And he demonstrated how much of a threat he was by pretty much dominating the first half of the fight. It was only into the second half that Wood started to come back. And then in the 11th round, he scored a knockdown that some perhaps think should have been ruled a slip. We'd have to look at that again. But again, that doesn't matter at this point because in round 12, he got him in the corner, landed a flurry that he finished and capitalized with a right hand that sent Conlan through the ropes and outside of the ring. And he was out before he even fell out. Definitely an amazing performance by Wood.
Talking about Leigh Wood, though, incredible victory in front of his hometown crowd, a fight that he was losing early on by a big margin. One card had the first 4 rounds going to Conlan. On top of that, the first one being a 10-8 round. You're talking about a big deficit heading into the midway point of the fight. And at least on Twitter, a lot of people had it more one-sided, even, as you got into the 9th, 10th, and 11th. And I think some people were even criticizing Tony Bellew's card. He was scoring unofficially for DAZN, but he had it a 1-point fight going into the last round, which reflects what the judges saw. So Michael Conlan, I think, surprised some folks that he predominantly stayed in the southpaw stance. He couldn't miss with that overhand left. I mean, over time, Wood just absorbed it better, but he could not get out of the way of that thing. I mean, he was just getting hit over and over and over. And technically, early on, it looked like Conlan was just lights out. He was better than he had ever been before. And it's obvious, he put in the work for this championship fight, and he came prepared. But man, I mean, that last round, the way that he fell, the way he got slumped and fell out of the ring is just not something that you see often, and definitely not something you want to see when you consider what he fell on, hard concrete. And I got to give a nod to Dougie Fisher of The Ring, who says he's always wanted the commission to put kind of padding around the ring for instances like this. When you think of like Hopkins and Joe Smith, something like this that happened tonight with Michael Conlan, you hate to see a guy fall out of the ring and just onto hard concrete. I mean, so much damage can happen. We don't know because we don't have that angle, but we don't know if it fell on his back, on his head, or whatnot. So again, back to Leigh Wood. I want to get your opinion on what you mentioned in that division. This is kind of under the radar, but this is a low key, exciting division. You know what I mean? And so you got guys, even Gary Russell Jr., not the champ anymore, but Mark Magsayo, Navarrete. You got, we mentioned Wood is the regular WBA champion, and they're trying to clean that stuff up. But you got Leo Santa Cruz, the other WBA champion. Which fight kind of entices you? It seems like Leigh Wood, in my opinion, and kind of what they were talking about after the fight with the DAZN crew, Carl Froch and Tony Bellew, is he's probably looking at domestically doing something and maybe keeping it within, the Matchroom banner and keeping it domestic. When you look at potentially fighting the Warrington versus Martinez rematch winner, you got the IBF title up for grabs there. And, Warrington comes out victorious. He's once again title holder. And a fight against Leigh Wood would be pretty exciting. What do you think?
I think the most likely possibility is for Leigh Wood to face the winner of Kiko Martinez versus Josh Warrington. They keep it in-house in terms of the same promoter and in terms of being in the same continent. If it's Kiko Martinez, he'll fight a Spanish fighter. If it's Josh Warrington, it's going to be a battle in the UK, and it'll be, one of those UK rivalries between two British fighters. That seems to be the most likely possibility. But, I mean, it's also worth noting who the other major players are in the division. You have Mark Magsayo, he has the WBC championship. If it weren't for all the political barriers, I think anyone would really look forward to seeing that fight. Same thing with Leo Santa Cruz. One thing that needs to be clarified is who is the real champion at 126 pounds. Leo Santa Cruz has not defended his 126-pound WBA championship since 2019, I believe, against Rafael Big Bang Rivera. It's been a long time. He's fought in other divisions. It's time to free up that WBA championship and say Leigh Wood is the real champion at that division in the WBA. So if they can do that by fighting or by just naming him the champion. If they do it and by way of a fight, then Leigh Wood versus Leo Santa Cruz would be an excellent fight. And then, of course, Emmanuel Navarrete. Him against anybody at 126
right.
Is an interesting fight. So lots of fights, lots of potential fights that could be made in that division.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think the one thing is that, I already see kind of the comments on Instagram, on our page and Twitter and whatnot. Oh, Leigh Wood gets smoked by, some of the guys that we're mentioning. The thing with Leigh Wood now that he's shown is that power is for real. So, he could be losing the majority of the fight and he's got it within him. And he was getting beat pretty bad. I mean, he was getting hit with body shots and those wear you down. And you saw he was kind of wearing down, slowing down. But I mean, when you've got that power, anything can happen in those 12 rounds. And so, we've seen guys that, in the past, you think, oh, Leo Santa Cruz can take, an endless amount of punches. I mean, he's shown he can get knocked out. Anyone can get knocked out. You know what I mean? And when you got a heavy hitter, anything can happen.
And let's throw in two names in there. Gary Russell Jr., not a champion anymore, but it would be interesting to fight him. But another name who's in-house, same promoter, that'd be interesting against any of those champions is Mauricio Lara. We saw what he did with Emilio Sanchez last week. Throw him in there with Leigh Wood in the UK. If he's not able to get that rematch against Josh Warrington, it'll be really interesting. All those fighters at 126 are really interesting.
We'll have to see what's next for him. A lot of options for sure. And again, our best wishes to Michael Conlan. For Gabe Rivas, I'm Alex Burgos. Thanks for checking out the RBR Recap, episode 8. We'll be back next week.
Thank you for listening to the RBR Recap. Make sure to follow us on social media at RBR Recap and visit RBRRecap.com for the latest episodes.